Chapter 10, the final chapter, though I believe there's a postscript and there's an epilogue, and I think there's another thing as well, or is it just the epilogue? It's just the epilogue, okay. Anyways, Chapter 10, Stardust. Chills, fucking chills. It has occasionally been remarked upon that it is easy to overlook something as large and obvious as it is to overlook something small and niggling. Oh, don't like that. Niggling. I hope he doesn't use that word anymore. And that the large things one overlooks can often cause problems. Tristram Thorn approached the gap in the wall from Fairy's side, for the second time since his conception 18 years before, with the star limping beside him. His head was in a whirl from the scents and the sounds of those native village. Oh my god. His head was in a whirl from the scents and sounds of his native village, and his heart rose within him. He nodded politely to the guards on the gap as he approached, recognizing them both. The young man, shifting idly from foot to foot, sipping a pint of what Tristram supposed to be Mr. Bromios's best ale, was Wystan Pippin, who had once been Tristram's schoolfellow, although never his friend, while the older man, sucking irritably upon a pipe, which appeared to have gone out, was none other than Tristram's former employer at Monday and Brown's, Jerome Ambrose Brown, Esquire. The men had their backs to Tristram and Yvain, and were resolutely facing the village as if they thought it sinful to observe the preparations occurring in the meadow behind them. "Good evening," said Tristram politely. "Wystan? Mr. Brown?" The two men started. Wystan spilled his beer down the front of his jacket. Mr. Brown raised his staff and pointed at the end of it at Tristram's chest nervously. Wystan Pippin put down his ale, picked up his staff, and blocked the gap with it. "Stay where you are," said Mr. Brown, gesturing with his staff, as if Tristram were a wild beast that might spring at him at any moment. Tristram laughed. "Do you not know me?" he asked. "It's me, Tristram Thorn." But Mr. Brown, who was Tristram knew, the senior of the guards, did not lower his staff. He looked Tristram up and down, from his worn brown boots to his mop of shaggy hair. Then he stared into Tristram's sun-browned face and sniffed, unimpressed. Even if you are that good-for-nothing Thorn," he said, "I see no reason to let either of you through. We guard the wall, after all." Tristram blinked. "I, too, have guarded the wall," he pointed out, "and there are no rules about not letting people through from this direction, only from the village." Mr. Brown nodded, slowly, then said, as one talks to an idiot, "And if you are Tristram Thorn, which I'm only conceding for the sake of argument here, for you look nothing like him, and you talk little enough like him either, in all the years you lived here, how many people came through the wall from the meadow side?" "Why, none that I ever heard of," said Tristram. Mr. Brown smiled the same smile that he had been used to use when he docked Tristram a morning's wages for 5 minutes lateness. "Exactly," he said. "There was no rule against it because it doesn't happen. No one comes through from the other side. Not while I'm on duty. Any road. Now, be off with you, before I take my stick to your head." Tristram was dumbfounded. "If you think I have gone through, well, everything I've gone through, only to be turned away by the wall, only to be turned away at the last by a self-important penny-pinching grocer and by someone who used to crib from me in history," he began, but Yvain touched his arm and said, "Tristram, let it go for now. You shall not fight with your own people." Tristram said nothing. Then he turned without a word, and together they walked back up the slope of the meadow, and around them a hodgepodge of creatures and people erected their stalls, hung their flags, and wheeled their barrows. And it came to Tristram then, in a wave of something that resembled homesickness, but a homesickness comprised in equal parts of longing and despair, that these might as well be his own people. for he had felt he had more in common with them than the pallid folk of Wall in their worsted jackets and their hob-nailed boots. They stopped and watched a small woman, almost as broad as she was high, do her best to put up her stall. Unasked, Tristan walked over and began to help her, carrying the heavy boxes from the cart to her stall, climbing a tall stepladder to hang an assortment of streamers from a tree branch, unpacking heavy glass carafes and jugs, each one stoppered with a huge blackened cork concealed with silvery wax and filled with a slowly swirling colored smoke, and placing them on the shelves. As he and the market woman worked, Yvain sat nearby on a tree stump, and she sang to them in her soft, clean voice the songs of the high stars, and the commoner songs that she had learned and heard from the folk they had encountered on their journeyings. By the time Tristan and the little woman were done, and the stall was set out for the morrow, they were working by lamplight. The woman insisted on feeding them. Yvain barely managed to convince her that she was not hungry, but Tristan ate everything he was offered enthusiastically. And, with enthusiasm. Oh my god, fucking. Yvain was barely managed to I'm reading the lower line with all of these. Yvain barely managed to convince her that she was not hungry, but Tristan ate everything he was offered with enthusiasm, and, unusual for him, he drank the greater part of a carafe of sweet canary wine, insisting that it tasted no stronger than freshly squeezed grape juice, and that it had no effect upon him of any kind. Even so, when the stout little woman offered them the clearing behind the cart to sleep in, Tristan was sleeping drunkenly in moments. It was a clear, cold night. The star sat beside the sleeping man, who had once been her captor, and he had become her companion on the road, and she wondered where her hatred had gone. She was not sleeping. There was a rustle in the grass beside her. A dark-haired woman stood next to her, and together they stared down at Tristan. "There is something of a dormouse in him still," said the dark-haired woman. Her ears were pointed and cat-like, and she looked little older than Tristan himself. Sometimes I wonder if she transforms people into animals, or whether she finds the beast inside us and frees it. Perhaps there is something about me that is, by nature, a brightly colored bird. It is something to which I have given much thought, but about which I have come to no conclusions. Tristan muttered something unintelligible and stirred in his sleep. Then he began gently to snore. The woman walked around Tristan and sat down beside him. "He seems good-hearted," she said. "Yes," admitted the star. "I suppose he is." "I should warn you," said the woman, "that if you leave these lands for over there," and she gestured toward the village of Wall with one slim arm from the wrist of which a silver chain glittered, "then you will be, as I understand, transformed into what you would be in that world, a cold, dead thing, sky-fallen." The star shivered, but she said nothing. Instead, she reached across Tristan's sleeping form to touch the silver chain which circled the woman's wrist and ankle and led off to the bushes beyond. "You become used to it in time," said the woman. "Do you really?" Oh, wait, sorry, let me reread this with actual. "You become used to it in time," said the woman. "Do you? Really?" Violet eyes stared into blue eyes, and then looked away. "No." The star let go of the chain. "He once caught me in a chain much like yours. Then he freed me, and I ran from him. But he found me and bound me with an obligation, which binds my kind more securely than any chain ever could." An April breeze ran across the meadow, stirring the bushes and the trees in one long, chilly sigh. The cat-eared woman tossed her curly hair back from her face and said, "You are under a prior obligation, are you not? You have something that does not belong to you, which you must deliver to its rightful owner." The star's lips tightened. "Who are you?" she said. "I told you. I was a bird in the caravan," said the woman. "I know what you are, and I know why the witch woman never knew that you were there. I know who seeks you and why she needs you. I also know the provenance of that topaz stone you wear upon a silver chain about your waist. Knowing this, and what manner of thing you are, I know the obligation you must be under." She leaned down, and, with delicate fingers, she tenderly pushed the hair from Tristan's face. The sleeping youth neither stirred nor responded. "I do not think that I believe you, or trust you," said the star. A night bird cried in a tree above them. It sounded very lonely in the darkness. I wonder if that's a dead person speaking. Because when it's like, Septimus tried to speak, but it was a crow, like, chirping in the distance. Not chirping, but, like a night bird cried in the tree above them. Sounds like people watching. If I'm right about this woman being the daughter of the other people, it would make sense that they all are watching the daughter out of curiosity. Because it's a sister. I could just be total bullshitting it, but trying to make a connection that isn't there. Or I misread it a while ago and have been sitting with it. Whatever. "I saw the topaz about your waist when I was a bird," said the woman, standing up once more. "I watched you when you bathed in the river and recognized it for what it was." "How?" asked the star. "How did you recognize it?" But the dark-haired woman only shook her head and walked back the way she had come, spraying one last glance for the sleeping youth upon the grass, and then she was taken by the night. Tristram's hair had obstinately fallen across his face once more. The star leaned down and gently pushed it to one side, letting her fingers dwell upon his cheek as he did so. He slept on. I'm going to take a sip of my water. Yum. Tristan was woken a little after sunrise by a large badger walking upon its hind legs and wearing a threadbare heliotrope silk dressing gown, who snuffed into his ear until Tristan sleepily opened his eyes, and then said, self-importantly, "Pardon name of Thorn, Tristan of that set." Oh, sorry, that's the badger saying it. "Pardon name of Thorn, Tristan of that set." Said Tristan. There was a foul taste in his mouth, which felt dry and furred. He could have slept there for another several hours. "They've been asking about you," said the badger. "Down by the gap. Seems there's a young lady that wants to have a word with you." Tristan sat up and grinned widely. He touched the sleeping star on the shoulder. She opened her sleepy blue eyes and said, "What?" "Good news," he told her. "Do you remember Victoria Forrester? I might have mentioned her name once or twice on the travels." "Yes," she said. "You might have." "Well," he said, "I'm off to see her. She's down by the gap." He paused. "Look, well, probably best if you stay here. I wouldn't want to confuse her or anything." The star rolled over and covered her head with her arm and said nothing else. Tristan decided that she must have gone back to sleep. He pulled on his boots, washed his face, and rinsed out his mouth in the meadow stream, and then ran pell-mell through the meadow toward the village. The guards on the wall that morning were the Reverend Miles, the vicar of Wall, and Mr. Bromios, the innkeeper. Standing between them was a young lady with her back to the meadow. "Victoria!" called Tristan in delight, but then the young lady turned, and he saw it was not Victoria Forrester, who he remembered suddenly with a delight of the knowing had grey eyes, that they were grey. How could he ever have allowed himself to forget? But who was this young lady could have been in her fine bonnet and shawl? What? But who was this young lady could have been in her fine bonnet and shawl? That doesn't feel like good grammar. Tristan could not say, although her eyes flooded with tears at the sight of him. "Tristan!" she said. "It is you! They said it was! Oh, Tristan, how could you? Oh, how could you?" And then he realized who the young lady reproaching him must be. "Louisa?" he said to his sister, and then, "You certainly have grown while I was away. From a chit of a girl into a fine young lady. She sniffed and blew her nose into a into a lace-edged linen handkerchief, which she pulled from her sleeve. And you, she told him, dabbing at her cheeks with the handkerchief, have turned into a mop-haired, raggle-taggle gypsy on your journey, a good-nothing journeyings. But I suppose you look well, and that is a good thing. Come on now, she motioned impatiently for him to walk through the gap in the wall and come to her. But the wall, he said, eyeing the innkeeper and the vicar a little nervously. Oh, as to that, when Winston and Mr. Brown finished their shift last night, they repaired to the saloon at the bar of the Seventh Pie, where Winston happened to mention their meeting a ragamuffin who claimed to be you, and how they blocked you on your way. And how they blocked his way, your way. When news reached Father's ears, he marched right up to the pie and gave them both such a tongue-lashing and a telling of what for, that I could scarcely believe it was him. Oh my god, these fucking back to sentences that are annoying to read. Some of us were for letting you come back this morning, said the vicar, and some were for keeping you there until midday. But none of the ones who were for making you wait are on wall duty this morning, said Mr. Bromios, which took a certain amount of jiggery pokery to organize. And on a day when I should have been seeing the refreshment stand, I could still point out, still it's good to see you back. Come on through. And with that, he stuck out his hand, and Tristram shook it with enthusiasm. Then Tristram Thook twice? That's crazy. Shook the vicar's hand. Tristram, said the vicar, I suppose that you must have seen many strange sights upon your travels. Tristram reflected for a moment. I suppose I must have, he said. You must come to the vicarage, then, next week, said the vicar. We shall have tea, and you must tell me about it, once we're settled back in, eh? And Tristram, who had always held the vicar in some awe, could do nothing but nod. Louisa sighed a little theatrically, and began to walk briskly in the direction of the Seventh Magpie. Tristram ran alongside the cobbles to catch up, and then he was walking beside her. It does my heart good to see you again, my sister, he said. As if we were not all worried sick about you, she said crossly. What with all your gallivanting? And you did not even wake me to say goodbye. Father has been quite distracted with concern for you, and at Christmas, when you were not there, after we have eaten goose and taken care of the pudding, Father took out the port and he toasted absent friends, and Mother sobbed like a babe, so of course I cried too. And then Father began to blow his nose into his best handkerchief, and Grandfather and Grandmother Hemstock insisted upon pulling the Christmas crackers and reading the Jolly Mottos, and somehow that only made matters worse, and, to put it bluntly, Tristram, you quite spoiled our Christmas. Sorry, said Tristram. What are we doing now? Where are we going? We are going to the Seventh Magpie, said Louisa. I should have thought that was obvious. Mr. Bromeo said that you could use his sitting room. There's somebody there who needs to talk to you. And she said nothing more as they went into the pub. There were a number of faces Tristram recognized, and the people nodded at him, or smiled, or did not smile, as he walked through the crowds and made his way up to the narrow stairs behind the bar to the landing with Louisa by his side. The wooden boards creaked beneath their feet. Louisa glared at Tristram. Then her lip trembled, and, to Tristram's surprise, she threw her arms around him and hugged him so tightly that he could not breathe. Then, with not another word, she fled back down the wooden stairs. He knocked at the door to the sitting room and went in. The room was decorated with a number of unusual objects, of small items and antique statuary and clay pots. Upon the wall hung a stick, wound about with ivy leaves, or rather with a dark metal cunningly beaten to resemble ivy. Apart from the decorations of the room could have been the sitting room of any busy bachelor with little time for sitting. It was furnished with a small chaise longue. Chaise, Chaise, and longue, Longue, A low table upon which was a well-thumbed leather-bound copy of the Sermons of Lawrence Sterne, a pianoforte, and several leather armchairs, and it was in one of these armchairs that Victoria Forrester was sitting. Tristan walked over her to her slowly and steadily, and then he went down on one knee in front of her, as he had gone down on his knees for her in the mud of a country lane. "Oh, please don't," said Victoria Forrester uncomfortably. "Please get up. Why don't you sit over there, in that chair? Yes, that's better." The morning light shone through the high lace curtains and caught her chestnut hair from behind, framing her face in gold. "Look at you," she said. "You became a man. In your hand. What happened to it?" "I burnt it," he said, "in a fire." I like wording his things like he's actually so dumb and unaware. Like, she's just like, "Oh my god, what happened to your hand?" He's like, "Oh, I burned it in a fire." Like, just kind of like, not like in pain, not in trauma, just genuine stating it, matter of fact, like, "Oh, it was a fire. I burned it." And she's like, "Oh, okay." She said nothing in response at first. She just looked at him. Then she sat back in the armchair and looked ahead of her, at the stick on the wall, or one of Mr. Romeo's quaint old statues, perhaps, and said, "There are a number of things I must tell you, Tristan, and none of them will be easy. I would appreciate if you said nothing until I have had a chance to say my piece. So, firstly, and perhaps importantly, I must apologize to you. It was my foolishness, my idiocy, that sent you off on your journeyings. I thought you were joking. No, not joking. I thought you were too much of a coward, too much of a boy, to ever follow up on any of your fine, silly words. It was only when you had gone, and the days passed, and you did not return, that I realized that you had been earnest, and by then it was much too late. I have had to live each day with the possibility that I sent you to your death." She stared ahead of herself as she spoke, and Tristan had the feeling, which became a certainty, that she had conducted this conversation in her head 100 times in his absence. It was why he could not be permitted to say anything. This was hard enough on Victoria Forrester, and she would not be able to manage it if he caused her to depart from her script. "And I did not play you fair, my poor shop boy. But you are no longer a shop boy, are you? Since I thought your quest was just foolishness, in every way." She paused, and her hands gripped the wooden arms of the chair, grasping them so tightly with that her knuckles first reddened, then went white. "Ask me why I would not kiss you that night, Tristan Thorn." "It was your right not to kiss me," said Tristan. "I did not come here to make you sad, Vicky. I did not find your star." "What?" "I did not find you your star to make you miserable." Her head tipped to one side. "So you did find the star we saw that night?" "Oh, yes," said Tristan. "The star is back in the meadow, though, right now. But I did what you asked me to do." Then do something else for me now. Ask me why I would not kiss you that night." I thought he did, whatever. "Ask me why I would not kiss you that night. I had kissed you before, when we were younger, after all." Very well, Vicky. Why would you not kiss me that night?" "Because," she said, and there was a relief in her voice as she said it, enormous relief, as if it were escaping from her. "That day before we saw the shooting star, Robert had asked me to marry him. That evening when I saw you, I had gone to the shop hoping to see him and talk to him and tell him that I accepted, and he should ask my father for my hand." "Robert?" asked Tristan, his head all in a whirl. "Robert Monday. You worked in his shop?" "Mr. Monday," echoed Tristan. "You and Mr. Monday." "Exactly." She was looking at him now. and then you had to take me seriously and run off and bring me back a star, and not a day would go by where I did not feel as if I had done something foolish and bad, for I promised you my hand if you returned with a star, and there were some days, Tristan, where I honestly did not know which I thought was worse, that you would be killed in the lands beyond, all for the love of me, or that you would succeed in your madness and return with the star to claim me as your bride. Now, of course, some folks hereabouts told me to not to take on so, and that it was inevitable that you would have gone off to the lands beyond. Of course, it being in your nature, and you being from there in the first place, but somehow, in my heart, I knew it was my fault, and that one day you would return to claim me. And you love Mr. Monday? Said Tristan, seizing on the only thing in all this he was certain he understood. She nodded, and raised her head, so her pretty chin pointed down towards Tristan. But I gave you my word, Tristan, and I will keep my word, and I have told Robert this, and I am responsible for all this that you've gone through, even your poor burned hand, and if you want me, then I am yours. To be honest, he said, I think that I am responsible for all that I have done, not you. And it is hard to regret a moment of it, although I missed soft beds from time to time. I shall never be able to look at another dormouse in quite the same way ever again. But you did not promise me your hand if I came back with a star, Vicky. I didn't? No. You promised me anything I desired. Victoria Forrester sat bolt upright then and looked down at the floor. A red spot burned in each pale cheek as if she had been slapped. Do I understand you to be... she began, but Tristan interrupted her. No, he said. I don't think you do. Actually, you said you would give me whatever I desire. Yes. Then... he paused. Then I desire that you should marry Mr. Monday. I desire that you should be married as soon as possible. Why, within this very week, if such a thing can be arranged. And I desire that you should be as happy together as ever a man and a woman should ever have been. She exhaled in one low, shuddering breath of release, then looked at him. Do you mean it? She asked. Marry him, with my blessing, and we'll be quits and done, said Tristan, and the star will probably think so too. There was a knock at the door. Is all well in there? Said a man's voice. Everything is fine, said Victoria. Please come in, Robert. You remember Tristan Thorne, do you not? Good morning, Mr. Monday, said Tristan, and he shook Mr. Monday's hand, which was sweaty and damp. I understand that you are to be married soon. Permit me to my tender congratulations. Mr. Monday grinned, though it made him look as if he had a toothache. Then he held out a hand for Victoria, and she rose from the chair. If you wish to see the star, Miss Forrester, said Tristan, but Victoria shook her head. I am delighted that you came home safely, Mr. Thorne. I trust that I shall see you at our wedding. I'm sure that nothing could give me greater pleasure than to be there, said Tristan Thorne, although he was sure of no such thing. Yeah, I was delivering all that as if he was being like, yeah, I'm so happy for you. And she's like, oh my God, really? That's great. And he's like, yeah, that's so great for you. I want you to die. That's awesome. Fuck you. I'm going to go back to my star. That type of energy. On a normal day, it would have been unheard of for the seventh magpie to have been so crowded before breakfast. But this was market day, and the wall folk and the strangers were crowded into the bar, eating heaps plates of lamb chop and bacon and mushrooms and fried eggs and black pudding. Dunstan Thorne was waiting for Tristan in the bar. He stood up when he saw him, walked over, and clasped him on the shoulder. Without speaking, So you made it back without hurt, he said, and there was pride in his voice. Tristan wondered if he had grown while he was away. He remembered his father as a bigger man. Hello, father, he said. I hurt my hand a bit. Your mother has breakfast waiting for you back at the farm, said Dunstan. Breakfast would be wonderful, he admitted Tristan, and seeing mother again. Of course. Also, we need to talk. For his mind was still on something that Victoria Forrester had said. You look taller, said his father. You are badly in need of a trip to the barber's. He drained his tankard, and together they left the seventh magpie and walked out into the morning. The two thorns climbed over a stile into one of Dunstan's fields, and as they walked through the meadow in which he had played in as a boy, Tristan raised the matter that had been vexing him, which was the question of his birth. His father answered him as honestly as he was able to, during the long walk back to the farmhouse, telling him his tale as if he were recounting a story that happened a very long time ago, to someone else, a love story. As they were at Tristan's old home, where his sister waited for him, there was a steaming breakfast on the stove, and on the table prepared for him, lovingly, by the woman he had always believed to be his mother. Madame Semele adjusted the last of the crystal flowers in the stall, and eyed the market with disfavor. It was a little past noon, and the customers had just started to wander through. None of them had stopped at her stall yet. "Fewer of them and fewer of them, every year," she said. "Mark my words, soon enough this market will be just a memory. There's other markets and other marketplaces. I am thinking. This market's time is almost over. Another 40, 50, 60 years at most, and it will be done for." "Perhaps," said the violet-eyed servant, "but it does not matter to me. This is the last of these markets I shall ever attend." Madame Semele glared at her. "I thought I had long since beaten all of your insolence out of you." "It is not insolence," said her slave. "Look," she held up the silver chain which bound her. It glinted in the sunlight, but still it was thinner, more translucent than it had ever been before. In places it seemed as if it were made not of silver, but of smoke. "What have you done?" Spittle flecked off the old woman's lips. "I have done nothing. Nothing but what I did 18 years ago. I was bound to be your slave until the day that the moon lost her daughter. If it occurred in a week, when 2 Mondays came together, and my time with you was almost done." "Oh, so his mom is free if the star dies." "Okay." It was after 3 in the afternoon. The star sat upon the meadow grass behind Mr. Romeo's wine and ale food stall and stared across the gap in the wall at the village beyond it. Upon occasion, the patrons of the stall would offer her wine or ale or great, greasy sausage, and always she would decline. "You waiting for someone, my dear?" asked a pleasant-featured woman, as the afternoon dragged on. "I do not know," said the star. "Perhaps." "A young man, if I do not mistake my guess. A lovely thing like you." The star nodded. "In a way," she said. "I'm Victoria," said the young woman. "Victoria Forrester." "I am called Yvain," said the star. She looked Victoria up and down and up again. "So," she said, "you are Victoria Forrester. Your fame precedes you." "The wedding, you mean?" said Victoria, and her eyes shone with pride and delight. "Oh, a wedding, is it?" asked Yvain. One hand crept to her waist and felt the topaz upon the silver chain. Then she stared at the gap in the wall and bit her lip. "Oh, you poor thing! What a beast he must be to keep you waiting so," said Victoria Forrester. "Why do you not go through and look for him?" "Because," said the star, and then she stopped. She said, "Perhaps I shall." The sky above them was striped with gray and white bands of clouds, through which the patches of blue could be seen. "I wish my mother were out," said the star. "I would say goodbye to her first." And awkwardly she got to her feet. But Victoria was not willing to let her new friend go that easily, and she was prattling on about bans and marriage licenses and special licenses which could only be issued by archbishops, and how lucky she was that Robert knew the archbishop. The wedding day seemed it was set for 6 days' time, at midday. Then Victoria called over a respectable gentleman, graying at the temples, who was smoking a black cheroot, and grinned as if he had a toothache still. "Wow, okay." "And this is Robert," she said. "Robert, this is Yvain. She's waiting for her young man, and this is Robert Monday. And on Friday next, at midday, I shall be Victoria Monday." Perhaps you could make something of that, my dear, in your speech at the wedding breakfast, that on Friday there will be 2 Mondays together. Oh, wait. Let me go back and read that. Was bound to you to be your daughter until the day that the moon lost her daughter, if it occurred in a week when the 2 Mondays came together. Oh, okay, so yeah, the star still has to die. And Mr. Monday puffed on his cheroot and told the bride-to-be that he would certainly consider it. Then, asked Yvain, picking her words with care, you are not marrying Tristan Thorn? No, said Victoria. Oh, said the star. Good. And she sat down. She was still sitting there when Tristan came back through the gap in the wall. Several hours later, he looked distracted, but brightened up when he saw her. Hello, you, he said, helping her to her feet. Have a good time waiting for me? Not particularly, she said. I'm sorry, said Tristan. I suppose I should have taken you with me into the village. No, said the star. You shouldn't have. I live as long as I'm in Fairy. If I were to travel to your world, I would be nothing but a cold iron stone fallen from the heavens, pitted and pocked. But I almost took you through with me, said Tristan. I tried to last night. Yes, she said, which only goes to prove that you are indeed a ninny, a lackwit, and a clodpole, dunderhead, offered Tristan. You always like to call me a dunderhead, and an oaf. Well, she said, you are all of those things, and more. Besides, why do you keep me waiting like that? I thought something terrible happened to you. I'm sorry, he said. He told her, I won't leave you again. No, she said seriously and with certainty. You will not. That's us. That's very much us. His hand found hers, then. They walked, hand in hand, through the market. A wind began to come up, flapping and gusting at the canvas of the tents and the flags, and a cold rain spat down on them. They took refuge under the awning of a bookstall, along with a number of people and creatures. The stall holder hauled a box full of books further under the canvas to ensure that it did not get wet. Mackerel sky, not long wet nor not long dry, said a man in a black silk top hat to Tristan and Yvain. He was purchasing a small book bound in red leather from the bookseller. Tristan smiled and nodded, and as it became apparent that the rain was easing up, he and Yvain walked on. Which is all the thanks I shall ever get from them, I'll wager, said the man with the top hat to the bookseller, who had not the slightest idea what he was speaking about, and did not care. I have to say my goodbyes to my family, said Tristan to the star as they walked. To my father and my mother, my father's wife, perhaps I should say, and to my sister Lucia. I don't think I shall be going back again. Now we just need to solve the problem of how to put you back up in the sky. Perhaps I shall come with you. You would not like it in the sky. You would not like it up in the sky, the star assured him. So, I take it you will not be marrying Victoria Forrester? Tristan nodded. Nope, he said. I met her, said the star. Did you know that she is with child? What? Tristan said, shocked and surprised. I doubt that she knows. She is 1, perhaps 2 moons along. Good Lord. How do you know? It was the star's turn to shrug. You know, she said. I was happy to discover that you are not marrying Victoria Forrester. So was I, he confessed. The rain began once more, but they made no move to get under cover. He squeezed her hand in his. You know, she said. A star and a mortal man. Only half mortal, actually, said Tristan helpfully. Everything I ever thought about myself, who I was, what I am, was a lie. Or sort of. You have no idea how astonishingly liberating that feels. Whatever you are, she said. I just wanted to point out that we can probably never have children. That's all. Tristan looked at the star, then, and he began to smile, and he said nothing at all. His hands were on her upper arms, and he was standing in front of her and looking down at her. Just so you know, that's all, said the star, and she leaned forward. They kissed for the first time then in the cold spring rain. Though neither one of them now knew that it was raining. Tristram's heart pounded in his chest, as if they were not big enough to contain all the joy that it held. He opened his eyes as he kissed the star. Her sky-blue eyes stared back into his, and her eyes could see no parting from her. That's so cute, but also I love that he kissed her with his eyes closed, and he opened his eyes to see that she was staring at him. Oh, I forgot to turn off the... whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just realizing I forgot to make the screen black. That's so cute, though. Stared back into his, and her eyes, he could see no part. That's so cute. The silver chain was now nothing but smoke and vapor. For a heartbeat, it hung on the air, then a sharp gust of wind and rain blew it out into nothing at all. There, said the woman with the dark, curling hair, stretching like a cat and smiling. The terms of my servitude are fulfilled, and now you and I are done with each other. The old woman looked at her helplessly. But what shall I do? I am old. I cannot manage this stall by myself. You are an evil, foolish slattern to desert me like this. Your problems are of no concern to me, said her former slave, but I shall never again be called a slattern or a slave or anything else that is not my own name. Yeah, I fucking knew it. I am Lady Una, firstborn and only daughter of the 81st Lord of Stormhold. And yes, and the spells and terms you bound me with are over and done. Now you will apologize to me and call me by my right name, or I will, with enormous pleasure, devote the rest of my life to hunting you down and destroying everything that you care for and everything that you are. They looked at each other then, and it was the old woman that looked away first. Ooh, get fucked. Then I must apologize for having called you a slattern, Lady Una, she said, as if each word of it were bitter sawdust, and she spat from her mouth. Lady Una nodded. Good. And I believe that you owe me payment. You owe me payment for my services. Now, my time with you is done, she said. For these things have their rules. All things have rules. I definitely bet that the crow sadly fucking the lonely crow thing, or Nightbird, was definitely them watching over her, see that she had the topaz. The rain was still falling in gusts, then not falling for long enough to lure people out from underneath the makeshift shelters, then raining on them once more. Tristan and Yvain sat damp and happy beside a campfire in the company of a motley assortment of creatures and people. Tristan had asked if any of them knew the little hairy man he had met upon his travels, and had described him well enough as he could. Several people had acknowledged that they had met him in the past, although none had seen him at this market. He found his hands twinning, almost of their own volition, into the star's wet hair. He wondered how it could have taken him so long to realize how much he cared for her. And he told her so, and she called him an idiot, and he declared that it was the finest thing ever that a man had ever been called. Oh. So, where are we going once the market's done? Asked the star. I do not know, said the star, but I have one obligation still to discharge. You do? Yes, she said. The topaz thing I showed you. I have to give it to the right person. The last time the right person came along, that innkeeper woman cut his throat. So I still have it, but I wish it were gone. A woman's voice at his shoulder said, Ask her for what she carries, Tristram Thorn. He turned and stared into the eyes of the color of meadow violets. You were the bird from the woman's caravan, he told the woman. when you were the dormouse, my son, said the woman. I was the bird, but now I have my own form again, and my time of servitude is over. Ask Yvain for what she carries. You have the right. He turned back to the star. Yvain? She nodded, waiting. Yvain, will you give me what you are carrying? She looked puzzled. Then she reached inside her robe, fumbled discreetly, and produced a large topaz stone on a broken silver chain. It was your grandfather's, said the woman to Tristan. Oh, fuck yeah! I thought she was going to take it and be like the first queen. But nah, it's him. You are the last male in the line of Stormhold. Put it about your neck. So Tristan did so. As he touched the ends of the silver chain together, they knit and mended as if they had never been broken. It's very nice, said Tristan dubiously. It is the power of Stormhold, said his mother. There's no one can argue with that. You are of the blood, and all of your uncles are dead and gone. You will make a fine lord of Stormhold. Tristan stared at her in honest puzzlement. But I have no wish to be a lord of anywhere, he told her, or of anything, except perhaps my lady's heart. And he took the star's hand and pressed it to his breast and smiled. The woman flicked her ears impatiently. In almost 18 years, Tristan Thorn, I have not demanded one single thing of you, and now the first simple little request that I make you, this tiny favor of you I ask you, you say to me now, I ask of you, Tristan, is that any way to treat your mother? No, mother, said Tristan. Well, she continued, slightly mollified, and I think it will do you young people to have a good home of your own, and for you to have occupation. And if it does not suit you, you may leave, you know? There is no silver chain that will hold you to the throne of Stormhold. And Tristan found this quite reassuring. Yvain was less impressed, for she knew that silver chains come in all shapes and sizes, but she also knew that it would not be wise to begin her life with Tristan by arguing with his mother. Might I have the honor of knowing what you are called? Asked Yvain, wondering if she was laying it on a bit too thickly. Tristran's mother preened, and Yvain knew that she was not. I am Lady Una of Stormhold, she said. Then she reached into a small bag, which hung from her side, and produced a rose made of glass, of a red so dark that it was almost black in the flickering firelight. It was my payment, she said, for more than 60 years of servitude. It galled her to give it to me, but rules are rules, and she would have lost her magic and more if she had not settled up. Now, I plan to borrow it for a palanquin to take us back to Stormhold, for we must arrive in style. Oh, I have missed the Stormhold so badly. We must have bearers and outriders and perhaps an elephant. They are so imposing. Nothing says get out of our way, quite like an elephant from the front. No, said Tristan. No, said his mother. No, repeated Tristan. You may travel by palanquin and eloquent and camel and all that, if you wish to, mother. But Yvain and I will make our own way there, and travel at our own speed. Lady Una took a deep breath, and Yvain decided that this argument was one that she would rather be somewhere else for. So she stood up and told them that she would be back soon, that she needed a walk, and that she would not go wandering too far. Tristan looked at her with pleading eyes, but Yvain shook her head. This was his fight to win, and he would fight it better if she were not there. She limped through the darkening market, pausing beside a tent from which music and applause could be heard, and from which light spilled like warm golden honey. She listened to the music, and she thought her own thoughts. It was there that a bent, white-haired old woman, glaucous blind? What? It's like a illness, I guess. What? It's white-haired old woman, glaucous blind in one eye, hobbled over to the star and bade her to stop a while to talk. About what? The old woman, shrunk by age and time to little bigger than a child, held onto a stick as tall and as bent as herself, and palsied the swollen knuckle hands. She stared up at the star with her good eye, and her blue milk eye, and she said, I came to fetch your heart back with me. Is that so? Aye, said the woman. I nearly had it, at that, up in the mountain pass. She cackled at the back of her throat at the memory. Do you remember? She had a large pack that sat like a hump on her back. A spiral ivory horn protruded from the pack, and Yvain knew where she had seen that horn before. That was you? Asked the star of the tiny woman. You, with the knives? That was me, but I squandered away all that youth I took for the journey. Every act of magic lost me a little of the youth I wore, and now I am older than I have ever been. If you touch me, said the star, lay a finger on me, you will regret it ever forevermore. If you ever get to be my age, said the old woman, you will know all there is to know about regrets, and you will know that one more here or there will make no difference in the long run. She snuffed the air. Her dress had once been red, but it seemed to have been much patched and taken up and faded over the years. It hung down from one shoulder, exposing a puckered scar that might have been many hundreds of years old. So what I want to know... Who is this speaking? So what I want to know is, why is it that I can no longer find you in my mind? You are still there, just... You are like a ghost, like a will-o-wisp. Not long ago you burned. Your heart burned. In my mind like a silver fire. But after that night in the inn it became all patchy and dim, and now there is none there at all. Yvain realized that she felt nothing but pity for the creature who had wanted her dead. So she said, Could it be that the heart you seek is no longer my own? The old woman coughed. Her whole frame shook and spasmed with the retching effort of it. The star waited for her to be done, and then she said, I have given it to another. Oh, the boy? The one with the inn? The one with the unicorn? Yes. You should have let me have it back then, for my sisters and me. We could have been young again, well into the age of the next world. Your boy will break it or waste it or lose it. They all do. Nonetheless, said the star, he has my heart. I hope that your sisters will not be too hard on you when you return to them without it. It was then that Tristan walked across to Yvain and took her hand and nodded to the old woman. All sorted out, he said. Nothing to worry about. And the palanquin? Oh, Mother will be traveling by palanquin. I had to promise that we get to Stormhold sooner or later, but we can take our time on the way. I think we should buy a couple of horses and see the sights. And your mother acceded to this? In the end, he said, blithely. Anyways, sorry to interrupt. We're almost done, said Yvain, and she turned back to the little old woman. My sisters will be harsh, but cruel, said the old witch queen. However, I appreciate the sentiment. You have a good heart, child. A pity it will not be mine. The star leaned down, then kissed the old woman on her wizened cheek, feeling the rough hairs on it scrape her soft lips. Then the star and her true love walked away towards the stall. Who was the old biddy? He asked Tristan. She seemed a bit familiar. Was anything wrong? Nothing was wrong, she told him. She was just someone I knew from the road. Behind them were the lights of the market, the lanterns and candles and witch lights and fairy glitter, like a dream of the night sky brought down to earth. In front of them, across the meadows on the other side of the gap in the wall, now guardless, was the town of Wall. Oil lamps and gas lamps and candles glowed in the windows of their houses to the village. To Tristan, then, they had seemed as distant and unknowable as the world of the Arabian Nights. He looked upon the lights of Wall for what he knew. It came to him then with certainty. It was the last time. He stared at them for some time and said nothing, the fallen star by his side, and then he turned away, and together they began to walk towards the east. Ah, wow. I'm so fucking glad that he wasn't like, let's go. And like, I feel like I worried so much in this that there would be stupid, unneeding, like, um, misunderstandings. Like there was a possible one where it's like, oh my god, like Victoria Forrester, and she says marriage, and the star was like, oh, you're getting married to him then? Oh, well, I'll go kill myself then. And then she learned immediately, and I was like, oh, thank god. So yeah, I that was so good. I'm so happy that I got to read this with you, for you, but with you, you know. It was really nice. I'm gonna make another episode where I read the epilogue. But yeah, that was really nice. That was a really wonderful story, and it actually makes me want to write more as well. So yeah, wow, chills. You know, that was wonderful. I love you. Also, if you hear, if you have heard a little like click sound, that's me fidgeting with your bookmark. Anyways, I love you so much. Te quiero muchísimo. That was incredible.